anyone with common sense would look at this and be like, this is literally ridiculous. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Deshawn and this is Uncut. On today's video, we are going to be talking about soccer or football or whatever you want to call it. The World Cup is happening right now in Qatar, and they're kicking balls and they're making goals and they're doing whatever they do in soccer. To be honest, I have not been keeping up with the World Cup, if that's not obvious. I came across this headline today that I thought that we should talk about, because honestly, it's so good and so bad in so many ways that it's literally the perfect example of what is wrong with the West as it stands right now. The headline reads, United States women's national team earns more money from men's World Cup than its previous two women's tournaments. Yes, you heard that correct. The women's team earns, you know, quotations around earns because they didn't earn any of this money, made more money because of what the men did in this year's World Cup versus what the women actually did for themselves in their own tournaments. And whether or not it makes any sense to you, it is legal and both teams agreed to it. The article continues, the United States women's national team earned more money from its male equivalent reaching the knockoff stage of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar than it did from winning its own tournaments in 2015 and 2019. As a result of the equal pay agreement forged earlier this year between the United States Soccer Federation, the United States Women National Teams Player Association, and the United States National Soccer Teams Players Association, the men and women's teams split all World Cup earnings. Under the landmark agreement, U.S. Soccer became the first federation in the world to equalize FIFA World Cup prize money awarded to the team for participating in World Cup. FIFA's website detailed the prize for this men's 2022 tournament, stating that teams who finish between 9th and 16th, those who are defeated in the first round of the knockout stages, earn $13 million per team. That means the U.S. women's national team will earn $6.5 million for the U.S. men's national team's exploits thus far in Qatar. If the team defeats the Netherlands in the round of 16 and reaches the quarterfinals or beyond, that figure will continue to increase. In contrast, the United States women's national team earned $6 million in total for its successive World Cup wins in 2015 and 2019. $2 million in 2015 and $4 million in 2019. So that's the story. The men did all the hard work and the women gets to split 50% of the profits. First of all, this is hilarious. And the reason why this is hilarious, because usually I see something like this and I'm enraged because it's not fair, because it's ridiculous, because it makes no sense, because it ignores reality. However, these are participating adults on both sides. Everybody agreed to it. Apparently there were some men on the men's soccer team that actually celebrated this. So it is almost seemingly a victimless crime, because if we're all going to agree to participate in the buffoonery, at some point it's just like, whatever, do y'all. So that's one. I found it very funny. On top of that, I think it really just goes to show how the left ends up spitting in its own face because it refuses to accept reality, and it ends up making like a clown show of itself. Everyone knows and everyone can agree, whether or not we like it, men's sport is just more interesting to watch. You know, there are certain female sports that are more interesting because it's more like artistic, and it's just more interesting to watch a women do it. And one of the best examples of that is ice skating and gymnastics. Women's gymnastics gets way more attention than men's gymnastics, even when it comes to the Olympics. But everyone's like okay with that. But when it comes to sports that men get more attention for or benefit more from, all of a sudden it's a problem. But going back to my point, the left is making a fool of itself because it continues to ignore reality, and then they strike up deals like this and then they congratulate themselves, whilst anyone with common sense would look at this and be like, this is literally ridiculous. Imagine if you went to work, right? Earned all of this money because of work that you have done, that you have put in, and then someone comes and says, give me 50% of that just because. And I find it very contradicting in a feminist sense, because like, I thought women wanted to be independent of men. I thought we wanted to prove to ourselves that we don't need men to help us to make money, to get rich, to be able to sustain ourselves. That we are able to go in and put in the work and do it ourselves. This whole entire agreement is contrary to that. And I don't understand how feminists thought that this was a good thing. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? If I was a feminist, I would be so ashamed. I'm like, wow, so we're really out here still depending on men. And we're saying that this is a good thing, that we are dependent on men. That we are literally kicking and screaming, no, we deserve what the men have. We want their money because equality. Last but not least, and I think my favorite point about this is that these men are complete and utter idiots, and honestly speaking, I do not care. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever, because there was no way in heaven, hell, or earth that I would have agreed to something like that if I was on one of these teams. Are you out of your absolute mind to think that I have to give these women 50% of my money? For what? The men are stupid. They deserve it. Everybody involved in this are just a bunch of idiots. And honestly speaking, like I said before, I found this very funny because it just looks so bad that it's good. And there have been a lot of examples of that lately, when it seems like the left is kind of starting to, like, you know, spit in its own face and just make itself just look ridiculous. Because you can progress and progress and progress. Eventually you'll progress into stupidity. At some point you have to just accept reality and learn how to act accordingly. And it's interesting because the fans are the ones that are supporting these things. Like the fans of the WNBA and the women's soccer team are like, no, these women deserve to be paid more. They deserve more attention. So why don't you go watch a women's soccer match? Why don't you go watch a WNBA game? If you care so much that they earn their money, why don't you give them advertising deals? If it matters that much to you. Look, have you ever watched a WNBA game? It's literally the players and the coaches there. There's barely ever any fans. I didn't even know that the women's team, I wonder if they have like an equivalent to the World Cup. Maybe they do. It's crazy because I don't know. And it's not because these federations and these associations are just like, you know, like hard patriarchy and just hate women. It is because they are responding to what the fans want. And no one wants to admit it, but men's sports are more entertaining. It's more fun to watch. In a certain sense, it is more competitive, and we can try to deny that all we want. We all end up looking ridiculous like these people do. But that's it. That is the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button, throw something in the comment section down below. And if you have not, make sure to hit that notification bell so that when your girl uploads, you will be notified. I thank you for your time and your attention. Remember to be blessed and be a blessing.